Thank you for tuning back into the Hardscape Huddle. I'm your host, Kyle Staffa, and today we are welcoming Bob Soden from Oliver Soden Insurance Agency. Today's topic is going to be all about the different types of insurance to have, homeowners of, why you should have or hire a contractor that has insurance. So, Bob, I thank you very much for joining us today on the Hardscape Huddle.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell me about yourself. Like, how long have you been in the insurance business? How long where's Oliver Soden from?
Kind of family business, fourth generation. Was started by my great-great-grandfather in 1925 in Jamesburg, New Jersey. Where we're located currently. Now my father has since retired, great-grandfather.
So now you bear all of the burden.
Myself, my cousin, and my uncle. We're
perfect.
all family partners, work very well together. We've opened a sales office in Shrewsbury, as well as a purchased agency, John B. Wright Agency in Manasquan.
Oh, okay.
They specialize in a lot of marine business.
Yep.
We specialize in a lot of contractors, homeowners, general business.
You're right.
Yeah, been in business a long time. Kind of grew up running around the agency.
Right. So you've been in it since you were just a toddler.
Yeah. I actually went to college, School of Insurance in Manhattan. It's kind of been in my blood and my family. We enjoy helping people, and that's basically what insurance is all about.
You handle other states, if we do have viewers from New York and Pennsylvania, Delaware.
Yeah, absolutely. We're right throughout the country. Most recently, I wrote a plumbing account in Kentucky.
So, wow.
Yeah, we can really, anywhere throughout the country, we can write it.
Nice. So that's interesting. Primarily geared towards contractors in general, correct?
Yeah, that's my niche.
Okay.
Emergency services. I'm also a volunteer firefighter. So I like working in spaces I'm comfortable in and part of. I've always been on my hands building decks, sheds, and cutting grass since I was little. So I gravitate towards contractors.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with this fire service. We insure fire districts for that reason. It's just my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But we write everything. I write, you name it, we've written it.
Right. So if you don't mind, I have some questions and notes to ask you, keeping in mind that this podcast is geared towards helping contractors. Sometimes there are some very reputable contractors out there that, in this particular case, may or may not know they're over or underinsured, right? And some newer guys that have come into the shop just recently looking to how to be insured, right? This particular person I'm thinking of is a younger guy just getting started, started out on his own with one mower and a little landscape trailer. And now I think he employs 4 or 5 of his friends and, he's continually growing. So we want to be able to help guys like that.
We love working with those guys because our favorite thing in our agency is educating.
Right.
People are so confused about insurance, and unless you're in the insurance business,
and they're quick to turn it off.
Yeah. People just it's another payment I don't really want to deal with. But there's a lot more to that, a lot more depth, and that's where we explain why you have insurance, the type of policies you need, the coverages you need, and it helps them understand. Okay, now I understand why I'm paying this premium, and it makes more sense.
Right. And let's face it, insurance is a necessary evil you hope you never use.
Absolutely.
So
catastrophic.
Yeah.
And people tend to look at it differently than that. Oh, I have to have it because DMV says so. Well, it is true, but if you have a catastrophic accident, that's where you're happy you had it.
Yeah. So let's just get into the meat and potatoes of it and what are the different types of insurance contractors, whether they're hardscape masonry contractors or roofing contractors.
Sure.
We basically know workers' comp, right?
Yep.
I mean, workers' comp is if I'm working on your house and I get hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to have coverage for yourself or your employees. And for the homeowner, if they hire a contractor that doesn't have workers' comp, they may be responsible for it. So it's important. You have it for your business owner has it for themselves because they may be responsible for the employee's injuries, and the homeowner wants to make sure they don't become responsible somehow as well. Okay. So it's a double-edged sword there.
Gotcha. So workers' comp goes off of wages, correct?
Yeah, payroll. Yep.
Okay.
Classification. Your masonry guy is a cement class, and payroll times the rate equals your premium. And it gets a little more depth there. You have your experience mod after you're in business for a while. That's impacted by your losses. So better your losses, lower your experience mod can help you because then you can go out to an insurance carrier with an agent like myself and get some scheduled credits built in, kind of lower your premium a little bit.
Okay.
Can go a long way. Little tricks that a good agent knows to help you with your insurance.
How about like auto insurance? A lot of roofing guys, for example, right? They probably pay a lot in liability.
Yes.
Up 2-3 floors high. There are some OSHA things I'm sure they have to go through.
Sure.
Tree guys.
Yeah. They're really tough classes of business, and not every carrier will write it. That's where it's super important to find yourself an agent that has a book of carriers that they can go to for that kind of help. We have a lot of carriers, and the reason for that is if one won't write it, we can shift gears to another, or if they have a rate increase, or they stop writing that line of business, which does occur often, we can shift to another carrier and still be able to write that for the insured.
Wow. And then staying with, liability, why would a homeowner want to make sure, that the contractors have liability insurance?
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty clear as far as being able to protect yourself. Again, insurance is about risk management, managing your risk. So the homeowner, what they have to be concerned with is if a contractor comes in and doesn't have insurance, they cause damage to their home. Well, guess who's going to be responsible? The homeowner, because if somebody doesn't have insurance, they're a fly-by-night contractor per se, maybe, or don't have insurance, don't have much asset-wise. You can't really get a whole lot from them. You're going to pay more in legal fees than probably just taking care of yourself. Whereas if you have a contractor that has insurance, okay, first thing you want to do is make sure whatever the work they're going to do for you, have a contract in place, lays out the work that's going to be done, ask them for a certificate of insurance showing they have the general liability, the workers' comp, the commercial auto. If you feel the need, a commercial umbrella, which extends your liability limit of the general liability and the other lines. But not only that, is make sure the homeowner, make sure you get named as additional insured on that policy. What that does, and the certificate will show that. It'll be written in the comments section, Mark Smith, whatever their name may be, is named additional insured on this policy for general liability, completed operations, the whole 9 yards. That protects you. So now if a contractor is doing hardscaping work in your property, damages your pool or something of that nature, that insurance policy will cover that.
So some of the viewers at home are going to be saying, so wait, Bob, you want me to get a certificate of insurance for every job I do? That's a pain in my butt.
Yes, but if you want to be protected, sometimes you have to do extra steps. And one thing we're starting to see in the industry is a lot of the really good contractors, they bring that up. That's part of their sales process, which is a good idea.
Yeah.
First conversation with the homeowner, hey, we're insured, we have $1 million limits. I'll present you with a contract, which you'll sign off on, both of us. So there's no question on who, the work being done. I'll provide you a certificate of insurance. Name you as additional insured. That way I'm insured. There's no questions.
It's a great sales tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And maybe even they take it a step further. I don't know if you can do this. You're going to tell me. Maybe as they go on to where they're going to collect their deposit check, maybe they already have the certificate of insurance. They've put it in a binder of some sort, maybe cellophane wrapping or what have you. And here you go, Mrs. Smith.
Yeah, sky's the limit.
Right.
You could build out your contract to include like a deposit receipt, even if something of that nature, whatever it may be. The sky's the limit. Ultimately, an attorney will tell you what you can and can't do when it comes to that part. But insurance-wise, it's all about the certificate of insurance.
Okay, that's really good knowledge. So let's go to one that is a sticking point for a lot of guys here in New Jersey. Laws are always changing, and that's the commercial auto.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a lot of lawn guys that Staff of Stone deals with, that come in with their trailers, pulling a trailer with a commercial truck. There's some new laws on that, as everybody in New Jersey knows. One being anything over 10,000 pounds, they've got to have a medical card.
Yeah.
Okay. There is something happening as well with something around 26,000 pounds as well, correct?
Correct. Yeah, as a new state law enforced as of July 1st, where any contractor.
This coming July?
Yeah, July 2024.
Okay.
Any contractor with a truck over 26,000 pounds has to have $1.5 million liability limit. That's absolutely new. It's never been done before.
So you would need your CDL, your medical card, and then $1.5 million of coverage.
Liability insurance, yeah, on the auto liability.
And that's
it,
per truck at 26,000?
No, it's a policy limit.
Okay.
So the standard policy limit with carriers, may go from 500,000 or $1 million on a auto liability policy. Then you need to get a commercial umbrella policy that can extend you an additional 1 million, 2 million, up to whatever limit you feel is necessary for your business. But if you have a 1 million liability limit on the auto liability and then a 1 million umbrella, that satisfies that $1.5 million.
Okay. So the umbrella acts as additional coverage to
Correct.
Cover that. Okay.
Yeah, it's an additional limit on top of. That's why they call it an umbrella. Some call it excess liability, but the umbrella term is nice because it kind of gives you additional coverage like an umbrella would. So you have your main policies underneath it, your general liability, your auto liability, your workers' compensation. The umbrella adds to that layer of coverage. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So if I'm weak, hopefully this never happens. Our trucks are registered usually right around 80,000 pounds, maybe 66,000 if you're just a dual axle. God forbid we get into an accident. I have $1 million of insurance, regular auto.
Yep.
Okay. Well, the accident causes some major issues. My umbrella will kick in at that point. Correct. Okay.
Yeah. And that's not only bodily injury, but it's property damage.
Okay.
So if you have an auto collision,
we hit a McLaren or something
like
an
expensive vehicle, then you got a guardrail, telephone pole, somebody's porch. It can add up pretty quickly, and that's not even including bodily injury.
Okay. Perfect. It definitely gets confusing when you start talking about insurance. So I'm glad you're here with us today.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of insurance. Probably is not only helping somebody when they have a loss, but just educating, kind of explaining things so they go, oh, okay, I never knew that.
Right.
That to me, that's like, oh, good. It's a good conversation.
Right. We've talked about liability, commercial auto, workers' comp. Let's talk about everybody's favorite, snow. Okay, yes. Snow is a totally different animal, correct?
Yeah, in New Jersey especially. It's gotten very difficult for contractors in New Jersey because not a lot of carriers want to include snow coverage because the losses that are associated with it, whether they're realistic losses or not.
Well, we don't even get snow here barely anymore.
Well, that's another problem. They're paying out money for a snow policy when sometimes it doesn't snow.
Yeah.
So that can hurt a lot of contractors. And that's where you need an agent like myself that can find other avenues. Instead of having a separate expensive snow liability policy, we're able to build it in a lot of times with a standard carrier that'll allow snow removal coverage. It's less and less. There's not a lot of carriers out there that want to do that, but we still have access to carriers, and we just actually contracted with a new carrier, and they're allowing us to include snow removal coverage.
So is that like an umbrella as well, or that's a totally different
No, it's just
policy?
An add-on class in your general liability policy. So if you're a lawn landscape guy, you'll have the lawn class, your lawn maintenance class, your landscaping class, and then the snow class is also included under your general liability.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So potentially could be a lot less than
Absolutely.
What other carriers are.
Absolutely, because it's based on payroll sales. So if you do a lot of snow, and location is key as well.
Right. Albany, New York is probably going to pay a higher premium than South Carolina.
Absolutely. And on top of that is the type of location you're plowing. If you're plowing a hospital or a mall, most carriers don't want anything to do with that. But if you're plowing small offices, that kind of thing, or residential homes, a lot easier to get a carrier to say, yeah, we'll entertain that. We'll include that coverage.
Mm-hmm.
But the key is having the options to where you can go from one carrier to the next, depending on what the type of coverage you need for the locations being plowed, the amount of plowing done.
Now, does snow removal and ice melt, does that all under one
all
policy?
Under one. All under one. Yeah. It go anywhere from the plowing itself, the salting. There's crazy things as people even doing snow removal off roofs. That's a separate animal, and that's a standalone policy for sure outside of your normal liability. But if you're doing the normal plowing, salting, sidewalks, it's not an issue, just as long as it's vanilla types of locations.
Right. Commercial, residential, what have you.
Yeah, as long as you're not getting crazy into strip malls and
high foot
malls.
Traffic and things like that.
Yeah, the higher the foot traffic, the more likely they're going to have a loss. And
slip and
don't
fall.
Like the losses.
Right. Yeah, one loss, we all pay additional for it, right?
Yeah, because they have to spread it out.
Yeah. It's interesting. And then I think off camera, you were telling me something else about subcontractors and things like that. So let's just take for instance, you know, I have a pool done. Okay. Now I'm a pool builder, let's say, and I need to sub out my plumbing work. Okay. That's
Gotcha.
the gas line, the plumbing for the filters and things like that.
Sure.
What kind of insurance coverage is there for hiring subs, or isn't there?
No, the big thing that you have to make sure you have in place when it comes to hiring a subcontractor to assist you on a job is a subcontract agreement. You have to transfer the risk from yourself to them, because last thing you want is, say, a plumbing contractor comes in to do the hookup to a heater, propane heater or something of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
They rupture a line inadvertently, causes some kind of explosion. You had nothing to do with that work.
I wasn't even on site.
So last thing you want is to be responsible. Well, if you don't have a subcontractor agreement that transfers the risk from yourself to them, and then also a certificate of insurance where they're naming you as additional insured, with adequate limits, of course, you're going to be responsible for that in that lawsuit as well. So what happens is they sue both of you, okay? That subcontractor and yourself. You say, hey, subcontract agreement, write to your attorney, certificate of insurance shows you as additional insured. Right there, now all that is transferred over to that subcontractor's insurance, and they're taking over responsibility for both of you.
Okay, so that subcontractor, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this so everybody at home is clear. So I'm a primary contractor. You're giving me the subcontractor agreement. Well, I'm giving it to you, I guess.
It can go both ways, but I prefer having the primary contractor have their own subcontractor agreement. And ultimately, it comes from an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
We have samples that we give contractors all the time. And the first thing we say, hey, we're not attorneys, we're insurance. Take this to your attorney. You're welcome to utilize it. They'll fine tune it to what they see need. But you use that going out to your subcontractor, having them agree. Both parties are signing it.
Yep.
That way, there's no question. They're basically a hold harmless will be built in there. They're taking on the responsibility if they cause damage or bodily injury.
Gotcha. Primary contractor. I ask you to sign off on this. You're the subcontractor. That wipes my liability for, anything you're doing. And then you assume all that responsibility, you and your insurance carrier.
Correct.
Perfect.
But
so I guess it's
the trick there is they have to name you as additional insured.
Okay.
You want to make sure they have adequate limits. Yep. So if you're comfortable with, say, a 1 million general liability and 1 million umbrella, you might require them to have that. If it's a big job, a big corporation you're doing work for, high assets, your business, is doing well asset wise, you might request them to have a 5 million umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of depends on the situation. But ultimately, that certificate of insurance needs to show the limits that you're requiring on that sub agreement. Also naming you as additional insured as the primary contractor. That's what actually triggers it.
So is it fair to say, you're going on a job estimate, it's a larger project. Maybe it's got a couple fire features, raised patio, perchance. Is it fair for the homeowner to say, Bob, are you subbing any of this out? And if so, will you be, having a subcontractor agreement?
Absolutely. It's a good question. Does it happen regularly? Probably not. Most homeowners are just going to ask the primary contractor for their insurance coverage because ultimately all they're
worried.
All they're really worried about is making sure they're going to be made whole.
Yeah.
And that falls on the primary contractor. So it's more on the primary contractor to make sure his subs are making him whole, transferring the risk back to them. Because the homeowner doesn't... It's
a CYA.
Yeah, they're only worried about somebody's going to make them whole if a problem happens.
Yeah.
Then the insurance is going to transfer, going to make sure the homeowner is taken care of by the primary contractor. Now he needs to make sure the sub makes him whole if the sub causes damage. So it's kind of a step
trickle down almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's interesting. I didn't even know that existed. And again, for anybody tuning in, they should, go to their attorney, or you said you guys do have.
Yeah, they kind of work in tandem.
Okay.
The insurance agent is going to speak on the insurance lingo and the insurance language to trigger the risk. The attorney is ultimately going to put the legal documentation in play that will kind of pull it all together.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we have another podcast episode out there that has talked about, making sure you're in good relationships with your banker, your attorney, your insurance person. And this is one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be simpatico.
Yeah, they all work together,
Yeah.
and you're going to utilize all of them over time.
Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure.
And another place besides where your attorney really comes into play and your insurance agent, because we touched on earlier, was the snow removal insurance. You want to make sure you have a contract in place for your snow removal as well, stipulating the work you're going to be done, so both parties are on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
That's required by most insurance carriers nowadays to even look at it.
So you got to have the contract in place prior to being insured for that lot or that commercial facility.
Yeah, before you're doing any work for any clients, they want to know that you have a snow removal contract in place.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the same thing falls into play. If you have a subcontractor doing plowing for you, you need that subcontractor agreement, certificate of insurance, additional insured. Yeah, it can get in depth sometimes. That's where you need an agent to hold your hand sometimes.
Yeah,
because it's easy to get. As a contractor or a homeowner, you have a lot of things you're dealing with every day, and you're, worried about your own job, and so sometimes you need to touch base with the.
But
agent.
One wrong move though can sink your whole company.
Absolutely.
You have one slip and fall. You have a catastrophic, truck accident or something like that.
Yeah, if you don't have the right coverage, all of a sudden, you can be in a bad position.
And guys at home, when you're bidding your jobs, your insurance, and we've talked about this in previous podcasts, is this all gets broken down amongst the jobs you do throughout the year. Yeah. So you shouldn't have to dip out of pocket for any of this. This gets budgeted into your projects.
And that's where another partner, your accountant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you partner with your accountant. You have them work that out throughout the year so you know what to put in insurance-wise into each job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Is there a rule of thumb, for like how much money or how much insurance coverage you should have?
That's a difficult answer because every business is not the same. You might have a small, like you were talking about earlier, guy just started his lawn mowing business, really just his pickup truck, maybe a trailer, maybe not, and one lawnmower. He's not going to need the liability coverage that somebody with a substantial business would need because he doesn't have the assets. Okay. A lot of times it falls into your assets. Another layer on there is the type of equipment for your commercial auto. If you're driving big trucks, an accident's going to be more catastrophic than a guy driving a pickup.
You're right.
Not that, you could have a bad accident either way, but the bigger the equipment, bigger the truck, the more likely is more substantial the accident will be.
Right.
You need higher limits there as well to protect yourself.
So it's safe to say it goes on the business size, maybe the gross revenue of the business.
Yeah. Assets come into play for sure. And it's a recommendation. What I like to do is any contractor, if they only have $1 million limit right now, general liability, workers' comp, their auto liability, I'll give them a quote for not only $1 million, but okay, here's what you're looking at if you wanted to add $1 million umbrella in, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million. That way they, at least it's education. Again, they'll know, okay, oh, wow, nobody ever showed me that my $1 million umbrella is only going to cost me $800, or $1,500, whatever it might be.
Right.
Definitely some people will say, oh, I wish you showed me that. I'm glad you showed me that because now I understand it's not that expensive. I can protect myself a little more cleanly and not have to be concerned with it.
Right. Yeah. And if you think it's only say $1,500 or $2,000 for an extra $1 million, again, hopefully you never use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you break down that $1,500 or $2,000 amongst 20 jobs, right? In Jersey, guys can usually do 15, 20 jobs a year over the 10 months. And then we start going into cleanups, which, again, should also incorporate your insurance premiums. So you break that down amongst the leaf cleanups and the mulch cleanups, and then going into the winter.
Yeah,
spread it out. And then let's talk about the oddball insurance. I know some of our contractors, they advertise online. I know a lot of bigger lawn contractors, and maybe you see this in snow removal as well, is maybe those corporate accounts keep a credit card on file. Okay. And every month, I don't know, $50 a week, cutting grass, the end of the month comes.
Yeah,
it's an automatic, we run the credit card.
Yep.
So is there, God forbid, you're hacked?
Yeah, that became very big once COVID hit. A lot of people worked from home. Times were a little difficult. Fraud was more alive than ever. And part of that was going after people's cyber, hacking, hacking your system,
stealing my credit cards. Yeah.
Stealing your client's information, whether it be credit cards. In a medical facility, you might have social security numbers, date of births, addresses, a lot of information that somebody's looking to do something fraudulent can have fun with. That's where cyber liability coverage comes into play. That protects you, the business owner, if somebody hacks your system, takes your client's information, and really causes a lot of problems, and they hold you responsible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these are just things that
it's another coverage that's not talked about.
Yeah. And I know, I think we have it because we store, different odds and ends.
We try to make sure we build it in.
So getting back to, say, snow and liability insurance, we're basically gearing that towards the type of accounts, the size of the business, maybe your gross revenue.
Yes. Payrolls come into play, the number of employees utilizing.
Right. That's going to be more towards your workers' comp, correct?
Well, even on the general liability when it comes to snow. Some carriers utilize employee count, number of plows, even payrolls, gross sales, kind of depending on the carrier as to what they utilize to come up with a premium. Gotcha.
What other oddball, insurances are out there that people should be aware of, if any?
For contractors, one that's not utilized and it can be very dangerous is contractors E&O, contractors errors and omissions.
Okay.
Good example of that. Your general liability covers you for bodily injury and property damage to a third party. So if you're building a nice hardscape setup with a fire pit around a pool, okay, while you're working, you leave overnight and there's a whole explosion. You don't, put caution tape around it. A neighbor kid comes running through the backyard, trips and breaks their leg. That's a bodily injury, going to be covered by your general liability. Once that hardscaping is finished and we find out, the pitch is wrong and it's causing the flooded basement or something of that nature, that's an error. That's where general liability, there's no coverage because there's no property damage. Okay. There's no bodily injury. Mm-hmm. So you need errors and omissions coverage there to pick up your error. Okay. And especially if there's a financial end to that. Say you erected something in front of a business and they're closed while, they understand, okay, we're going to be closed for 5 days while you do this work. All of a sudden you create a mistake and now they're closed for 3 weeks. Guess who they're going to hold responsible for the financial loss while they're not able to operate? They're going to come back to you. General liability won't pick that up.
Okay, so now are they potentially suing you for lost wages and lost revenue?
Absolutely.
And that's where your O&E kicks in.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, your contractor's E&O is going to, that includes a financial tail there as well.
Wow. That's something to always think about.
Yeah, and a lot of contractors don't. They just think about, just give me what I need to protect myself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, well, how about this too? It's an additional, again, we're not talking big money. You can a lot of times get a rider on your general liability policy, $1,000, $2,000 for an additional E&O coverage. Might not have the limit of a standalone E&O policy, but $100,000, whatever it may be. It's $1,000 is well worth an additional $100,000 of E&O coverage just in case you make a mistake on a job and you have to go back in and fix that problem.
Let's face it, rehab contractors, right, or renovation contractors, they're always running into something that they can't see.
Yeah.
Right. There's something behind the facade of that building that they don't know who framed that last, or, so they may run into that quite often.
Yeah. If you project, hey, this job's going to take us 5 days. This is what we're going to do. You lay it out there and the clients say, yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. Not a problem. All of a sudden that turns into a 3-week project. They're losing money and they come back and hold you responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Without this coverage, you're going to pad a pocket.
Yeah. That's now, would we see that on a residential, other than tripping and falling in a hole? Or
that could come into play for the primary contractor doing a job. Yes, absolutely. If if they're doing work for a homeowner and they don't correctly plan that job,
Yep.
And as a result, once the installation's done, it creates a problem where the homeowner just can't live with it. They might sue them and hold them responsible.
Yeah. So I have for instance, of a project done April-ish, give or take. Homeowner bought a house. They had the whole house renovated, saved up enough money or made enough money off of the sale of their previous house, had their basement refinished. This is a true story. They were looking to save some money when it came to the hardscape. So they hired some laborers to come in. They bought the pavers, the homeowner bought the pavers. And unfortunately, the pitch of the patio was wrong. Okay. It was not away from the house. It actually had sunk up at the foundation and it was pitched towards the house. Well, here in New Jersey, we had 17 days of rain in April this year. That water pitched right towards the foundation.
Jeez, what a mess.
It was an older home, very well kept. The house was beautiful. However, below grade was a crack in the foundation. All of that water that was now pitched towards the house was going into the foundation right through the brand new walls. Okay. Now, of course, they hired laborers and not, contractors with insurance. They ended up having to replace the whole basement.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems that happen there. That having a reputable contractor where they have insurance, naming you additional insured, like we talked about earlier, but not only then having the right coverage to pick up for a design flaw. They're a mistake they made, which is well and above, say, a bodily injury or property damage. They pitched it incorrectly, and they should be held responsible.
Now, if they had hired a reputable contractor that they vetted, that showed up with the certificate of insurance, named them additional insured, the contractor's insurance would have picked that up, correct?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Again, that's then not the homeowner's issue. It's the contractor's issue.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They need to make sure they have the right coverage in place, which is that contractor's E&O.
Okay.
Yeah. If they had the general basic liability coverage, which is your straight general liability, which covers your bodily injury property damage, they would have had no coverage here. And as a result, the homeowner would have had to sue them and possibly, depending on their assets, could result in possibly bankruptcy or whatever it may be. That's where the contractor has to make sure they have the right coverage. The homeowner doesn't need to see that,
right,
other than the basic certificate of insurance. It could go as far as the homeowner could ask, hey, do you have contractor's E&O as well? Not a bad idea, but most aren't going to. They're just going to want to see the primary general liability.
Yep. And these cases are rarities.
Sure, but it happens.
But out of 30 years, I know, one or two instances of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
a lot of contractors, I feel, if a mistake is made, they kind of, they're good people. So they just try to make good on it.
Yep.
And it may not even fall back to insurance. But if it's a large project, that's, sometimes you have to utilize your insurance.
Yeah. I don't know what the dollar value of repairing that basement was. But at that point, they did find that they had a cracked foundation, so I'm sure they probably repaired that.
Yeah.
Or at least we hope they did.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But, sometimes people don't realize that to try to save a few dollars and hire laborers, it costs you a lot more money.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that's the general liability is only a piece of that picture. The workers' compensation is a huge issue when you're hiring laborers, whether it be a contractor hiring laborers to work for them, they aren't actually employees, or the homeowner that hires laborers themselves. If one of those laborers gets hurt, who's responsible? You are. So as the contractor, workers' compensation isn't going to step up because they're not an employee.
Right.
Same thing.
So you're saying if you don't have them on the payroll system and maybe you're paying them cash.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If they're not technically, you're not an employee unless you receive that paycheck or pay
it's
stub.
a W-2.
Yep.
W-2 employee.
Yeah. So if they're not technically an employee and they get hurt, they're going to be looking at you, the contractor, to take care of my medical bills. Whereas if you hire an actual employee, W-2, do it the right way, workers' compensation will take care of it.
Going back to snow and things, sometimes, and this probably falls under that the subcontractor agreement. What if you 1099? You hire me for the season as a 1099 employee.
Subcontractor.
Okay, that's kind of what I figured.
Yeah, you're going to want to make sure they have their own insurance.
Yep.
If you're not an employee of mine, you better have your own insurance.
Right. Yeah. So if you plan on 1099 me.
That's where I want to see the certificate with all your
Okay.
policies listed. Name me as additional insured. Protect protect yourself.
Interesting. And then what other types of insurance should contractors be aware of other than the E&O?
Inland marine, their equipment, that's something that we have guys all the time buying new mowers, and oh, I forgot to call Bob and let him know I picked up this new $15,000 mower.
Yeah, they're not cheap anymore, boy.
Yeah, no less than excavator.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, is your inland marine. It's not a lot of money to insure equipment. So we schedule them. We even have blanket inland marine policies where they'll up to $2,500 included.
Okay.
So anything under $2,500, it's a blanket. It's automatically included.
I would like to know
your blowers and
I would like to know what piece of equipment in the hardscape business is under $2,500.
That's getting more difficult. 10 years ago, it was pretty easy. You could even get a mower sometimes fall under that, but nowadays it's not so easy.
Yeah. Heck, I think block splitters are $2,000 now. They don't even have a motor.
Yeah. So that's just a piece of a hand tool.
Yeah. That's a hand tool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So inland marine is
that gets overlooked commonly. Almost every contractor needs it because every contractor is going to have equipment of some kind.
And what does that cover? Just theft?
Fire, theft, those are the big items there.
Okay.
If you we see this, unfortunately. You have your truck, you park it, you go into a store, you come out and your equipment's gone. Somebody stole it. All right. Call Bob, make a claim.
So what we've seen recently here in New Jersey, since we live close to the ports, and they probably see it in Baltimore areas, got a big port and things like that, is most contractors rent a yard or rent space for their excavators and skid steers and their enclosed trailers and things like that. Well, you show up on a Monday, you parked it on Friday.
And truck's gone?
No, the trucks are typically there. Okay. But the skid steer's missing, the excavator's missing, or the backhoe.
Yes.
And they run them right to the port and they ship them overseas. So, we have seen some of that recently.
That's a perfect example. If that piece of equipment's not scheduled on your inland marine policy, there's no coverage.
Right.
Yeah. And you're talking a nice excavator, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yep. Interesting. Yeah, I've kind of totally forgot about the inland marine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think all my forklifts are on there, and my Moffats most likely.
Yep.
Wheel loaders.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all perfect examples.
And then how do you handle that with hand tools, or you just don't?
Well, that's where it falls under. If it's hand tools you're selling, that's under your business personal property, under your package policy, your property policy. If it's equipment that is yours, you own, and you're using them to move mulch around or stone around, shovel, whatever it may be, that's included under that tools and equipment blanket.
Okay.
That $2,500 and under.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. There is another, now that you made me think about with the ports close to water, flood coverage. That's something a lot of contractors don't think about at all, is flood coverage. But then there has to be a need. Somebody near that has a yard, per se, near a river, near a lake, along the coast. We've seen it with hurricanes where they come in and flood that yard and just all the equipment, trucks, destroyed.
So if any buddies listening in the Denellen or Manville area of New Jersey, I mean, that river floods on a
big areas for flood.
That's huge. Probably not needed in Kentucky or
or by me in Jamesburg. The chance of really having equipment get flooded, unless you're right next to the lake.
But your office in Manasquan probably writes a lot of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of coastal when it comes to flood there in Manasquan.
Yeah. How does that obviously cover them for the yard that they're renting? They've parked their equipment and we get a flood? Yeah,
because the location's scheduled right on that policy.
Gotcha.
So anything that's at that location, the flood comes in, destroys it.
Wow. And then obviously as you buy and release mowers or resell mowers, you can obviously constantly add to that policy.
Yeah, we try to do, we're pretty good with communication with our accounts that, hey, Bob, I just sold this one and bought this one. But, people get busy and they forget. So annually we try to touch base. Hey, any changes over the past year? Did you buy, sell, lease, whatever it may be? And we make the changes accordingly.
Okay. And then at your company, Oliver Soden, do you guys do anything with Keyman Insurance?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not done readily. We're all licensed for life and health as well.
Okay.
Keyman
so just tell me a little
product.
bit. Yeah, I was just going to say, just tell me a little bit about Keyman, because let's face it, most of the contractors tuning in today are owner operators.
Yes.
Okay. And if they were to, not be able to work and provide for their family tomorrow, that business is potentially gone, and
Absolutely.
and maybe their significant other cannot hold the pieces together.
Yeah. No, the key man policy actually allows them to continue operating. The significant other or partner, whoever it may be.
Right. Could be just a business partner.
Yeah. Can hire somebody to fill their shoes until they put the pieces back together or liquidate the company.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that's we're part of Keystone Insurance Group.
Okay.
They're a partner of ours. It's a nationwide partnership, which gives us access to financials. And we have a team there that actually, we are licensed for life, but we don't get too involved in that. We stay to our property and casualty, but we have the right team members I can refer you right to them, and same thing with health insurance.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, they take good care of you. Because we like to specialize in, property and casualty, and you can't specialize in everything. So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to life and health, we have the right partners in place to make sure they can do it for us.
Got you. No, it makes total sense. At Staff of Stone, we feel that we have partnerships with, our vendors, our contractors, and it sounds like, over at Soden Insurance Agency, you guys do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
you partner with your carriers, and you partner with your contractors.
Yep.
And it goes back to what we said before, is having good relationships with your insurance agent, your accountant, your attorney.
Yeah, almost doesn't matter what the business is. My business is insurance. Your business is, hardscape and supplies.
Yeah.
But you still need the right accountant. Still
Yep.
need the right, attorney.
Yeah.
It's kind of follow suit. You have to have the right connections in the industries to successfully run your business.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you another story, and I want to kind of get your take on this. This is something from about 20 years ago. Homeowner, you know exactly where the house is. It's in the town we both grew up in.
Okay.
Put in a built-in pool. Some of it was exposed because of the elevation change and things like that. They hired some people that were not vetted properly. Okay, they ended up putting the skid steer bucket as they were grading and getting ready to build the wall.
Uh-oh.
They put that bucket right through the brand new pool.
Oh.
So do you think that went through homeowners insurance, or did they have to pay out of pocket for that? Number one. Obviously, number two is, again, trying to save a few $1,000s. Maybe, in this particular case, they probably saved an additional $35,000 or $40,000.
Yeah.
Which they probably could have hired a professional, a vetted professional with the proper insurance.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And that comes back to what we were saying before. Getting the right contractor in place, having the insurance in place, a certificate of insurance, name and additional insured, all that. Because now they have a problem. They have a pool that's destroyed, brand new pool, and a contractor that doesn't have insurance. What are they going to do? They have no choice but to take it on themselves when they shouldn't have to. They're going to either go to their insurance carrier or pay it out of pocket when it shouldn't be their responsibility. A contractor caused that damage, they should be taking care of it.
Right.
But if they don't have the assets to absorb it, and they might go out of business or just run and be chased by a lawsuit or something of that nature.
Right. So sometimes it goes back to what we were saying before. It costs a lot of money to do it the cheap way.
Yeah.
They
can come back to haunt you.
Which leads into a point we've touched on a little bit is, why homeowners should do the vetting and making sure they have the proper insurance. Is, guys, homeowners, if you're tuning in, do your due diligence. It saves you money in the long run.
Yeah.
You may think you're trying to save a few dollars by hiring maybe employees of hardscape companies, right? And hey, come in on a Saturday and Sunday and work for me for cash. Okay. It doesn't always work that way.
No.
And you may save, you may get ahead, the job may come out perfect, but there are these nightmare instances that we just spoke about.
Absolutely. And they don't happen all the time, but they happen.
Right.
I have one. It was, lawn care guy that I insured.
Mm-hmm.
He was cutting grass, got into some leaves, started a fire, and it spread to the house. And unfortunately, it was pretty catastrophic. Without his insurance, it would have bankrupted him 100%.
Wow. Burn the house down?
Just about.
Wow.
Yep. Just about.
I mean, and it's a freak accident.
Yeah, who would know
Who
that?
would have thought? Right?
But that's why you have insurance. Those catastrophic issues that you can't foresee.
Mm-hmm. So
Managing risk.
So we've got homeowners asking for certificates of insurance, or maybe contractors offering it up.
Yep.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to do for you, and you can use that as your sales pitch.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
you see
said.
it commonly on trucks, fully insured.
Right.
That's only as good as the words. But if you go to a homeowner and say, "Look, put it all on the table," part of your sales pitch,
Mm-hmm.
I think it helps to make the homeowner feel at ease. Oh, this guy's great.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. I wouldn't want anybody working at my house knowing that I am now at risk, right?
Yeah.
He falls off my roof. They're putting up gutters and falls off my roof or something like that. Now I've got to worry about his broken back.
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't know about you, but my luck is that way. If I were to hire the guy with no insurance, that's when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And guess
course.
who's responsible? I am.
Yeah. So again, I guess towards the contractors and developing relationships with their insurance carrier. How do you guys handle it? Do they come to your office and you guys, talk about it there? Or are you willing to come out to their office and show them what you're willing to do at Soden Agency?
Absolutely. And that's a funny thing, because 10 years ago, it was one where it was either I'm meeting in your office or you're meeting in my office. Now, since COVID, we can meet remotely on Teams, Zoom. I've written accounts without even meeting the person physically.
In person, yeah.
Yeah, over the phone, email. And 10 years ago, I'd say that's impossible. But sky's the limit. So now I present it flexible. Hey, what works best for you? You want me to stop out and meet with you? You want to stop and see me? The coffee's always hot. Or, hey, I know time is tough for everybody nowadays, send me an email. We'll touch base on the phone and we'll go from there. So it's really flexible.
Mm-hmm. And then for me, for pricing insurance, okay, so I have Soden Insurance Agencies giving me, we'll use $1 million worth of coverage, and it's costing me $5,000. How do I figure if that's a good deal versus company B, C, and D?
Absolutely. It's all by marketing. My grandfather had a phrase back in the day, one-stop shop. We don't utilize that anymore because it's kind of gimmicky nowadays. But we are proud to market for you. That's why we have so many different carriers. I'll actually put together a marketing plan. It's a lot of times the first conversation. Look, these are the carriers we're going to present. We're going to go out to market. That's where we get marketing. We're going to take this out to market. We're going to look at these carriers for you because they specialize in your business.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the results, when I come back and meet with you again or shoot you an email, I'll show you how the carriers stacked up against each other. This is the carrier I recommend. And that's normally the way we go. And then on renewal, it's similar. We'll have our conversation. I'll stop out, meet with you, give you a call, whatever, your time allows. And we're going to market it. These are the carriers we're going to reach out to. Here's how they compared, stacked up. This carrier did a little better here. This carrier's got a little better coverage that meets your particular need a little better. This is what I recommend. Boom. And sometimes it's the carrier with, that's the place to be, especially a roofing contractor. The market's pretty slim as far as commercial roofing contractors. But there's carriers that specialize in it. So you might be in that with that carrier, and that might be where I recommend, until a change occurs.
Right. Until somebody either decides to pick that up or that company decides to get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's all about marketing. And that's what we're proud to do for you. You shouldn't have.
So instead of me calling,
you don't have enough time
yes.
to call 10 different agents and get 10 different quotes. It's a lot of time. That's where we're able to do that for you.
Okay. So that's added bonus.
Absolutely.
Or added value, I should say, that you're bringing to my business.
Yeah. Yeah. It saves you time.
Yeah. And then what rates, right? Obviously rates fluctuate depending on how much insurance. But what about from carrier to carrier, from, I don't even know any insurance. Progressive to, what's the ones you see on TV?
Sure,
Allstate.
Yeah.
Or things like that.
And it's ever evolving. It's one year to the next, it rides with inflation heavily.
Okay.
Right now, everything's inflated. Cost of milk, cost of eggs, cost of concrete.
Yep.
Everything's high. So it pushes insurance as well. So one carrier right now.
Well, that's true too, because it's going to raise your wages that you're paying out.
Yeah. So your payroll goes up, the rate goes up, you're paying more money in insurance. But that's where having the carriers makes a lot of sense for us because Nationwide, I don't like to talk carriers, but
Yeah.
Nationwide, it's one of our carriers. Their rates might be super stable and they don't ask for a rate increase, whereas another carrier might ask for a rate increase. So we have to shift and move to a different carrier that didn't have as much of a rate increase as another one did, or, it doesn't happen often, but a rate decrease could occur. Right now, and is kind of as crazy as inflation's been lately, we're looking to stay. If you have a carrier that stays even close to stable,
stick with them.
You got a good thing.
Right.
Yeah, because all rates are going up. It's just
is it safe? So I've got two questions to you. First one is, the contractors that are tuning in today. Number one, we thank them, and hopefully they're getting something out of this. Number two is, or to that question is, how often can they go to their insurance provider, Bob Soden, and say, hey, look, let's take a look at this. Can we do a audit on my insurance?
Sure.
Can we save some money? How often is it? Once a year, come around renewal, or 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, the common is renewal.
Okay.
That's kind of when you look at things.
And you start that process before the renewal, obviously.
It depends on your account, honestly. If you're a smaller account, a couple guys with a couple mowers and a couple trucks, it's not as much that needs to be looked at. It's not as time consuming to market that. So we can wait a little closer, say 30 days out.
So I was going to say
a bigger
month
account that has 30 trucks, all kinds of equipment, different locations. Takes a lot more time to remarket that. So that's when we have to, start that a little sooner.
Okay.
Sometimes 180 days.
Okay. So a 3-month turnaround roughly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's since COVID, everything's slower than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that same thing happens with carriers. Carrier turnaround takes longer than it had in the past. That's just the way it is.
Wow. And then we've talked about different things in the past episodes of the Hardscape Huddle. And I know we do it at Staff of Stone where come springtime or come late winter, we look to get discounts on buying things. Okay, so typically you pay your insurance, monthly or maybe quarterly. Is there a way for contractors to, beat up, so to speak, the insurance carriers or agents and get a savings, right? It's got to be beneficial to the contractor.
Yep.
And make a call and say, hey, Bob, how about if, can we trim anything off of the premiums? I pay you one lump sum right now.
Yeah.
Or maybe just, biannually or something like that.
Absolutely. Insureds that we currently insure, we're pretty sharp at doing that right off the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I do is kind of look for fluff. Okay. If there's any fluff, I try to trim it where it makes sense. Some coverages I absolutely would never remove. But if I see a coverage you don't need or a coverage that, it's inflated, change that could happen. You say you have multiple general liability policies for different properties. We can combine that all together under one policy, save you some money. So we normally do that right off the bat, is try to get you the right coverage at the most competitive pricing. So it's easy for me to do that when they're coming from somewhere else, because a lot of times insureds aren't looked at very closely, especially if they're coming from, the names I won't talk about, but they have green animals and all kinds of different things. A lot of times they're a number in a book. They're not getting specialized attention.
Right.
And there might be some things that could be changed, corrected to kind of tighten things up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like to do. I enjoy tightening up.
Well, it sounds like you're building the relationship for longevity.
Yes.
Rather than being that number in the book.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And the part of that longevity is helping you control your losses. An insured that has a lot of losses, they don't look very appealing when it comes time to market them to different insurance carriers. So that's where we help you control your losses as best we can. And then we can paint a nice picture to the insurance carrier of the reason why they should insure you and do it at the most competitive rate.
Well, that's a really good point you bring up. Now, is there anything, the insurance companies or your company does that you could meet and maybe have a safety meeting?
Absolutely.
And then does that help with premiums?
Absolutely. Oh, okay. So I have an insured who had a pretty rough loss history before we insured him. Came in, that was the first thing we did. We started toolbox meetings. I don't go out often, but I give them the supplies they need so they can do it. And they're weekly. sitting on the tailgate, going over, driver safety and different things. And it's made a difference.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot less losses than they had 2 years ago. And now that their loss runs are looking better, cleaning up, we're able to go to the carrier and paint that picture. Hey, this is what we did since we've taken them on as an insured. And now we're seeing better premiums.
Okay. So there are things out there. You can meet with the contractor. You can go over PPEs, right? Personal protection equipment.
Absolutely.
Different things like that.
Yep. Yeah, because it's
is there classes, like almost like a continuing ed class that contractors could go through to?
That's another benefit of Keystone, our partner Keystone Insurance Group. We actually have access to Keystone Risk Management. There's a company that is part of Keystone. We can actually bring them in to an account, and they do a thorough overview of all their issues that they might have or might not have. They might give you, hey, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. Keep it up, and we'll assist you with some further, training, what it may be. Or they might come in and say, you need to clean this up. You need to clean that up. Should be wearing safety glasses. Should be wearing a hard hat, whatever it may be. And their ultimate goal is to decrease your loss frequency and severity as well.
Right.
And what that does, it may cost you a couple dollars to have them come in and do that, but ultimately it's going to save you money once your loss runs improve, and then you can be marketed to another carrier, at a better rate.
Mm-hmm. So even if it costs you $1,500 for them to come in and write you this report, I assume they write a report?
Oh yeah, they'll give you a thorough report, and then they meet with you. Hey, you set up a schedule. Sometimes they come out once a month and do a safety meeting with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it might be semi-annual.
Okay.
Depends on your needs.
And they're willing to come out to every size company, or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then the smaller guys that say, Bob, that's not something I really need. We have a Zywave portal, where we can come in and get them, say you call, hey, Bob, I got an employee, keep using his cell phone. I said, I got you. I'll go into this software program, pull out a cell phone policy, document it up, configure it just for your business, send it over.
I think we all need that.
Yeah.
Everybody
absolutely.
in this business has one guy on the crew leaning on that shovel, texting.
Yep. And we put a cell phone policy in place for you. You have each employee sign it. Boom. Now you got a policy. So if something happens where they're not abiding by the policy, you can take action on your end as the owner. But that's only an example of one. The sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Defensive driving, we can help you bring in defensive driving.
Yeah, I know earbuds are a big thing. Sometimes they got earbuds in playing music loud.
Yeah.
They don't know, they're not aware of their surroundings.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, I know, unfortunately, a supply yard had an accident like that many years ago.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah.
Because if you can't hear a truck backing up or whatnot, and you're in your blind spot, it can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And is that portal, is there a cost associated to that portal?
We pay for it, but a lot of times, we'll give access to our insureds for free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's big.
Another one we have is called OSHA logs. If you have, I believe it's 28 or 30 employees or more, by law, you're required to report to OSHA.
Mm-hmm.
We have a system that's called OSHA logs. We pay for it, but we give insureds access, and even prospects sometimes ask us access to this system, and they will report any injury in the system. And then when you have to do your annual reporting to OSHA, you can do it right through that system. Boom, sends it right in, makes it real easy.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. We try to do anything we can to help our insureds and even prospects. Cause hey, if you get to see how we operate, a lot of times you're like, man, Bob, you're a good outfit. Give me,
right.
Give me a quote on my insurance.
Right. Well, what I enjoy is, it sounds like you're mom and pop, right? But
yes.
you're big enough to with 3 locations to handle everything and anything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we're proud of that. We like being around town, Bob. You stop in and see me, have a cup of coffee, sit down and BS. We're easy people.
Yeah.
We're people. I'm, the guy you might see in a fire scene in town, and also insure you.
Right.
We're happy to be that way. We just enjoy insurance, enjoy people, and enjoy helping people. So
you might be one of the few that enjoy insurance.
Well, that's true. And there's some gray here that,
that comes along with
the hard parts of any business, but we enjoy helping people. And that's, I think, the small town part of us, but we have the wide capabilities.
So in closing today, we spoke about a wide variety of things, right? We spoke about workers' comp insurance,
Yep.
how it works, okay, and it protects you and your employees on the site from getting hurt and things like that.
Yep.
Runs off of your wages, right? And that's how you're going to pay it.
Payroll.
So it's going to cover the guys that are W-2'd and not the guy you're paying cash.
No.
Okay. He's, if he falls down on your site and breaks a leg, you better be ready to pay his medical bills.
Yep.
We spoke about commercial auto. Okay. Registering all your vehicles properly, insuring them properly, obviously.
Absolutely. Trailers as well. That's another part that, is often overlooked. With a commercial auto policy, you need to schedule your trailers.
So what if I just have a pickup and a dump trailer?
Dump trailer needs to be scheduled in that policy. On personal auto policy, you don't specifically have to schedule your trailers in order to have liability coverage. Commercial auto doesn't work that way. You have to schedule the trailers, trucks,
everything.
Add physical damage to them if you want physical damage coverage as well.
Okay. Good to know. I'm glad you brought that up. Then we spoke about the New Jersey law. It's only a New Jersey law, correct?
Yep.
At 26,000 pounds, you better have $1.5 million of
Absolutely.
coverage.
Yep.
Okay. So for anybody listening in Canada and
they
Kentucky,
have their own motor vehicle regulations up there.
But if they call you, from Kentucky or New York, you can help them out and guide them in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Okay. We spoke about liability insurance and snow removal insurance. Not many people are covering that anymore.
Yeah, carriers are tightening up, when it comes to snow liability. General liability, it depends on the class of business. Some carriers don't like plumbers. Some carriers don't like hardscapers, So that's where you have to have the...
And maybe they were burnt at one time.
Yeah. Well, the carriers will see the losses. They might been writing roofers for 10 years. They see an increase in losses, and they'll shut down that class of business. Say,
So it's trendy.
Yes, absolutely.
Can be trendy.
Absolutely.
Interesting. We did speak about contractors offering up, insurance or proof of insurance certificates to the homeowners. And again, homeowners should be asking for that.
Yes.
It takes the liability off of them.
Yeah. Yep.
We also spoke about something, a subcontractor's agreement. Okay. If you're subbing work to somebody, you should have a subcontractor's agreement with the insurance policy requirements that you want in place.
Yeah. That way that you don't have a guy coming in with low limits that aren't going to cover the possible, bodily injury or property damage that may be coming along with it if he makes a mistake.
Right. And then you educated me today on O&E or E&O?
E&O.
E&O. Okay.
Errors and omissions.
Okay. Again, something I never even heard of in this industry.
Yeah.
But definitely a good thing. The one thing I have written here, and I don't know if we touched on it, and maybe we did, is the umbrella insurance. Good thing to have.
Absolutely.
To cover over, or to cover more than what your general liability is going to be.
Yeah. And what we're seeing more and more is not only protecting yourself, is commercial clients are requesting these nowadays. It's not uncommon to see a commercial client, larger scale, request you to have a $5 million umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
We have some insured.
So does that mean I can cut down on my general liability and my...
No.
Okay, so I still need to kind of keep that up.
They work in tandem, but your primary is your general liability. That's where if you have a loss, that's going to your general liability first. The umbrella is the second step, second tier, if you want to call it that. Once your liability limit, if you have $1 million liability limit, that runs out, then it shifts over to your umbrella. And then you have $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever it may be.
Okay. So they're always going to go to your general liability first.
Correct. Your auto liability as well, your workers' compensation. Mm-hmm. That's always your primary, and then the umbrella is over top of that.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Anything else we should know about insurance?
We could talk for days and days and days when it comes to insurance. But today we just really wanted to touch on the specifics for a homeowner, what to look for when it comes to hiring a contractor.
And why to hire a contractor with insurance.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's all about protecting yourself and transferring risk.
Mm-hmm.
As a homeowner, if you have a contractor come in to do work for you, you don't want to be responsible for something they do.
Right.
They should have insurance for that.
Right. Okay. Or if one of their guys gets hurt on at my house.
Exactly. That's where their workers' compensation should be in place. Otherwise, as a homeowner, you don't want to pay for that guy's or gal's medical bills.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you're hiring a capable contractor that has the right insurance. But you won't know that unless you request that certificate of insurance.
Right.
Okay.
Just because their truck says fully insured
Doesn't mean they are.
Right.
Yep, it's only a sticker on the truck.
That's it.
But a contract's important too. You want to have that contract with you and the contractor as a homeowner, so you know there's no misconstruement. You know exactly what they're doing. We're doing A, B, C, and D for you. This is what the cost is associated with it. It's a binding contract.
Yeah.
Okay. Without that binding
I
contract,
know what I'm getting now.
Yeah. That's more of a legal end of things, but it's a binding contract when you're both signing a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Without that, it's a little harder to hold them responsible for something.
Of course.
Combine that with the certificate of insurance, naming you as additional insured, you're all set as a homeowner, because if something then happens, it's their responsibility.
Right. I think we've pretty much touched on everything that I wanted to get done, and we've added on. So I am very thankful for that. Hopefully, guys that tuned in today, they get a good grasp. Maybe they're out of our area, they're down in Florida. They can go to their insurance agency.
Absolutely.
And say, hey, look, I need to reevaluate everything I had. I listened to this podcast, and I need to make sure my butt is covered.
Yeah.
And if not, then they can reach out to you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And how do they find you?
We write insurance throughout the country. You can look us up on Soden Insurance. Pull us up right on
SodenInsurance.com?
Yep, SodenInsurance.com.
Okay.
We'll pop right up. Or don't hesitate to call me.
Okay.
I'm sure you can attach my information towards the end of this podcast for me.
Yep.
I'm always in the office, readily available. And if not, I return calls, answer emails.
Okay.
But yeah, we write insurance countrywide. It's always a pleasure, to deal with people and help them, especially people that want to understand insurance.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people that I don't care about insurance. I don't even want to pay my insurance, but I have to.
Right.
Those are the people that, hey, we'll help them, but we're not going to take the extra steps to really educate them if they won't be educated.
Right.
The people we enjoy are the people that want to be educated, understand insurance a little better, and know that they're protecting themselves and they appreciate what we bring to the table for them.
And hopefully they never have to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the worst case, but we want to be there for you when it's that worst case.
Right. And guys, just to reiterate too, is all your insurance premiums should come through the jobs. Okay. We've had other podcasts episodes, tells you how to break all of these expenses down.
Yeah. That's smart business.
Okay. You shouldn't have to dip out of your pocket and things like that to be able to afford the E&O and the umbrella insurance.
Yeah.
This all gets broken down into the amount of jobs you do each year.
And that's another reason the agent, whoever your agent, if it's myself or somebody else, is going to ask you to project for the coming year.
Your sales.
Yeah, because we're going to try to set this up, so you're spreading your payments out throughout the year based on that projection.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing you're doing with your jobs. You're projecting, okay, I know my insurance is this. Spread it out through your projected number of jobs you're going to have, size of jobs, and spread it out.
And again, homeowners that are tuning in, please, yes, this is going to add a little bit of cost to the job site, but it adds a whole lot more value to that job site.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, something happens.
Absolutely.
So,
and it's all about catastrophe.
Yeah.
It's all about catastrophe. You want to protect yourself. That's what insurance was originally designed for, is catastrophic events.
Yeah.
Okay. Not to pay for a cracked window or, chip in your siding. It's more for something substantial where you really need that help.
Yeah. Like you said, you almost burned the house down with hot leaves or something like that.
Yeah.
That's so. And homeowners need to remember too that it costs a lot of money to go the cheap route.
Yeah.
Or potentially can.
Because it could come back to haunt you. Absolutely. Yeah. What started out as a small project turns into a big project.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, thank you for tuning in to the Hardscape Huddle. Hopefully you learned something about insurance today.
Man, thanks for having me. Any questions anybody has out there,
reach out to Bob Soden at Soden Insurance or Soden Agency.
Yep. Oliver L.E. Soden Agency, Soden Insurance. I give Kyle my email. Reach out to Kyle. He knows how to get a hold of me.
Yeah. Reach us at the Hardscape Huddle, or even at staff of Stone if need be. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next episode.